AK-74M, the modernized Kalashnikov that defined post-Soviet firepower. Introduction. When one hears the name Kalashnikov, it conjures an image more than a specific weapon. To Western audiences, the term instantly recalls the iconic silhouette of the AK-47, curved magazine, wooden stock, gas tube riding above the barrel. But within the Russian and former Soviet armed forces, the true standard Kalashnikov of the late 19th century was not the AK-47, nor even the AKM, but the AK-74M, a weapon that represented both continuity and modernization. The AK-74M stands as a transitional rifle in the history of Soviet and Russian arms. It was designed in the late 1980s as the final refinement of the AK-74 family, chambered for the 5.45 by 39 mm small-bore cartridge, and intended to bring Soviet infantry small arms up to parity with NATO's 5.56 by 45 mm systems. By the time it entered full service in the early 1990s, the Soviet Union had already collapsed. Thus, the AK-74M became not just a weapon of a superpower, but the baseline rifle for the newly born Russian Federation, anchoring its small arms doctrine during years of military reform, economic crisis, and renewed geopolitical assertion. Before analyzing its technical features, combat record, and doctrinal significance, it is crucial to situate the AK-74M in its developmental lineage. Like any weapon, it is not an isolated creation, but the culmination of decades of iterative design, feedback from combat theaters, and adaptation to geopolitical pressures. 2. Background and development. From the AK-47 to the AKM. To understand why the AK-74M exists, one must first revisit the trajectory of its predecessors. The original AK-47, finalized in 1947 and fielded widely by 1949, was chambered in 7.62 by 39 mm, an intermediate cartridge designed during World War II to provide controllable automatic fire while retaining effective range. While the AK-47 quickly became a Soviet and international icon, it had limitations. Its milled receiver was heavy and costly to manufacture, and its ergonomics were basic. The solution came in 1959 with the AKM, Automat Kalashnikov Modernizirovanny. By switching to a stamped steel receiver and incorporating minor changes, such as a slant compensator and improved fire control, the AKM reduced weight, simplified mass production, and became the most produced variant of the Kalashnikov lineage. It was this rifle, not the original AK-47, that flooded the arsenals of Warsaw Pact armies and insurgent movements worldwide. The push toward small-caliber, high-velocity. By the late 1960s, the Soviet military could not ignore NATO's shift to small-caliber, high-velocity SCHV cartridges. The U.S. adoption of the 5.56 by 45 mm round in the M16 platform demonstrated a new ballistic philosophy. Lighter ammunition allowed soldiers to carry more rounds, flatter trajectories increased hit probability, and reduced recoil improved automatic controllability. Soviet planners began to investigate their own SCHV cartridges. After extensive testing, the 5.45 by 39 mm round was finalized in the early 1970s. With a 53-gram bullet traveling at high velocity, the cartridge exhibited excellent accuracy, low recoil, and, controversially, a wounding profile that Western observers often described as inhumane due to its tendency to tumble inside soft tissue. Birth of the AK-74. To exploit this new cartridge, the Soviets developed the AK-74. Externally similar to the AKM, the AK-74 incorporated a redesigned muzzle brake, a new magazine geometry for the smaller cartridge, and internal modifications to optimize cycling. First issued to frontline units in 1974. It saw combat debut in Afghanistan, 1979 to 1989, where its performance drew mixed but generally positive assessments. The AK-74 proved lighter, more controllable, and more accurate than the AKM. Yet, it retained the ruggedness of the Kalashnikov system, functioning reliably in Afghanistan's dust and heat. Western intelligence soon took note, and NATO ballistics studied recovered 5.45mm ammunition with great interest. Toward the AK-74M. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union faced a dilemma. On one hand, the AK-74 was a capable rifle that matched NATO's SCHV rifles. On the other, Western developments, from the German G36 prototypes to American M16A2 refinements, emphasized modularity, optics compatibility, and synthetic materials. The Soviets also launched the Abakan trials, seeking a revolutionary new assault rifle with hyper-burst accuracy, eventually resulting in the AN-94. Yet, radical innovation carried risks, especially during a period of economic stagnation. Soviet leadership recognized that whatever the Abakan project produced, they still needed a reliable, mass-producible baseline rifle. Thus emerged the AK-74M, a modernized AK-74 that would incorporate improvements without disrupting the logistical ecosystem of Kalashnikov manufacturing. The AK-74M was finalized in 1991, literally months before the Soviet collapse. Its designation M, Modernized, reflected continuity, not a replacement but an evolution. Its key enhancements included a reinforced black polymer stock that folded to the side for easier transport, polymer handguards and magazines, reducing weight and increasing durability, a universal side-mounted optics rail, finally allowing widespread use of scopes, night vision, and reflex sights. Refinements to internal metallurgy and coatings, enhancing longevity. In essence, the AK-74M was the Soviet response to late Cold War small arms modernization, a rifle that could remain relevant in an age of plastics and optics while staying true to the Kalashnikov's simplicity. The collapse and continuity. Ironically, the Soviet Union collapsed just as the AK-74M was ready for mass adoption. Instead of equipping a superpower's armies across Eastern Europe, the rifle became the standard service weapon of the Russian Federation's newly reorganized armed forces. Production at Izhmash, now Kalashnikov concern, continued, and the AK-74M became ubiquitous in Russian units throughout the 1990s. This continuity mattered. For all its turmoil, the Russian military entered the Chechen Wars, the 2008 Georgia conflict, and even 2014's Crimea and Donbass operations with a consistent standard rifle. Where NATO countries cycled through M16 variants, G36s, L85s, and eventually M4s, Russia stuck with the AK-74M. To Western observers, this underscored a key distinction. Russia prized logistical simplicity and proven ruggedness over rapid modernization. The AK-74M was not revolutionary, but it was reliable, inexpensive, and adaptable, qualities that matter more in prolonged conflicts than in procurement competitions.